Tsunami warnings for the U.S. coastline and Japan have been downgraded to advisories after a massive earthquake off of Russia's far eastern coast that put the region on high alert. Geologist Dr. Matt Herman from California State University now joins us, Cal State of Bakersfield, that is, joining us to talk a little bit more about this massive earthquake. Thanks for coming on this afternoon. Let's talk a little bit about this, Matt, because first off, what can you tell us in particular? Now, we've been saying it's an 8.8. Is that the highest earthquake we've seen?
This is a huge earthquake. This is unusually large. This is the largest event since 2011, the Great Japan earthquake. And this is one of the top 10 largest earthquakes since 1900. So what we're looking at here is absolutely huge on the scale of big earthquakes.
Okay, I wanted to see if, I don't know if you guys are possible, the guys in the back, if you guys can take our quake tracker, because I want people to see where this is at. Because we're talking about how this thing was creating seismic waves, tsunami warnings. You can see all the aftershocks. Let me pull you into this, Matt, is that when you look at all those aftershocks, for those folks that may not know, how common is that to see just the sizable amount of those aftershocks since last night?
This is really common. So what's typical after a large earthquake is we see many, many smaller events, typically in and around the region where the big earthquake occurred. Most of them will be much smaller than the main earthquake, but some of them may be in the magnitude 7, maybe even in the low 8 range. So this is very, very typical. What's also really interesting is for the last 10 days here before the 8.8, there's actually been a series of magnitude 6s and even a magnitude 7.4 here. So this is a really interesting area seismically, tectonically, to try and understand the relationships between these events.
Now, tsunami warnings are not uncommon, especially when there's an earthquake in the ocean. But how do scientists actually determine the tsunami warnings?
Yeah, so anytime there's a big earthquake underwater, typically a tsunami warning goes out. This type of earthquake is really good at generating a tsunami. First of all, it's very large, which means that it's going to move the ground quite a bit since it's large and shallow. But then also it's underwater. It moves the water column up over a huge, huge area. So this type of earthquake around the Pacific is very typical in generating big tsunamis that travel and hit Hawaii, that travel and hit California, and all sorts of coastal regions around the Pacific.
Now, we just showed a graphic just a moment ago how far it was from Russia to Hawaii, and let alone there were beaches on the Southern California coastline that were issued potential tsunami warnings. I know some beaches were closed this morning because of that. Is that too far? It seems like it would be too far, but could it still reach the U.S.?
It's not at all too far. So these tsunamis generated by these giant earthquakes can be up to several feet tall in places like Hawaii and California. Now, being far away means they just take a while to get there. A tsunami wave in the open ocean travels about as fast as a jet plane, so a few hundred miles per hour. And so it takes a few hours for the tsunami to get from the earthquake to places like Hawaii or California. And that's why we have time to evacuate. But in many ways, evacuating when you're far away is more challenging because there's less urgency. So the tsunami waves can be big, can be dangerous. We expect maybe a few feet. That's what was observed at Hawaii and California.
All right, well, Dr. Matt Herman, let me bring it back into Bakersfield. We had our last largest earthquake. You have to go to, was it 6 years ago on 4th of July? And that was in the Kern County desert, which was just rock'em sock'em. Everybody felt this 2 days in a row. In fact, the second one was larger. Is there any way that we can prepare for earthquakes here, or is there some guide that says, hey, an earthquake's coming?
We can't predict earthquakes yet. We're not there. But we know in California we have lots of earthquake hazards. As you mentioned, the last big earthquake we felt in Bakersfield wasn't a San Andreas earthquake, but we can be affected by San Andreas earthquakes. In the 1950s, the White Wolf Fault had a big earthquake here in Kern County. So we are no strangers to earthquakes here. The key thing is that it's not shaking that hurts people. It's typically things falling. So you want to make sure your home is in good condition to not collapse. You want to make sure that if there is shaking, you get under something sturdy, that things are secured to the walls. You want to make sure you have a pack in case things are damaged, that you can, be around for a few days without necessarily having your home and electricity and gas available for you, and water. So just general earthquake preparedness. There are a ton of resources online to make sure people here are ready.
Well, really appreciate your time. And if there's anywhere people can learn more, is there a website specifically people can check out, or how do they contact maybe you at the university?
Yeah, so I've got a website at the university, an email. You can find me at csub.edu/geology. There's also a ton of resources for earthquake information and preparedness from the U.S. Geological Survey, the California Geological Survey. The Great Shakeout is a yearly event that you can find a website for it to help prepare. So there's tons of resources online, and you can always feel free to contact me to make sure those are legitimate.
Matt, one quick question. As a weather forecaster myself, so many people always say it's earthquake weather. I just want to hear it from a geologist. Is weather and earthquakes, meteorology and geology, are they the same?
There's some of the underlying physics might be similar, some of the underlying calculations, but weather is pretty different from earthquake physics. But there are people who work on earthquake forecasting. It's not nearly to the point where weather forecasting is. We cannot say, oh, in the next week there is this likelihood of such and such magnitude earthquake in this region.
Right.
We haven't gotten to that point scientifically.
Well, you got to work on it, man, because I can forecast any day, and I can tell you what's going to happen in 7 days. So get on it, Dr. Matt Herman.
Does anybody ever complain to you?
Every day. Every day.
Oh, man.
That's why I'm going to go on vacation tomorrow. Really appreciate your time. Geologist from California State University, Bakersfield, Dr. Matt Herman, thank you so much for taking your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.